Hello again, everybody. This is Steve. Picking up where we left off at, I decided this time I'm going, since we were talking about, domain of Caspar and some of the other stuff, that I would cover a few of the locations in Offworld. One of those is really interesting, and that's Bremen Tebaro, which is the domain of Manwan Despan. That's what I was thinking of. So this is the pirate capital. This is literally, it's not on the main trail. It's off to the side. You have to go down a little trail a couple of miles to get to it. But this is a fortified city filled with pirates. It's somewhat respectable city, and yet it's not, because it's full of pirates. But not everybody in there is pirates. There's some interesting characters, and even Simon's team runs into one of them. Kindly old lady who's in the middle of this city. Sweet old lady, very, very godly, very caring. She takes them in for the night because they're waiting to get a ship across the Great Sea. She houses them for a night, and then the next day they're able to meet James Ramiru. He's a pirate merchant and captain of the Flying Coachman, which is a very light clipper ship. Yes, I recycled images. Sorry about that. Again, I have trouble finding images that actually fit stuff, so sometimes I recycle them. Because if they're close enough, I reuse them. But anyways, he is an interesting one because he operates as a pirate, but he's not really a pirate. The short story behind him is he was a sea merchant sailing the Flying Coachman. He was the fastest ship on the Great Sea, and because of that, people hired him for express shipping. Well, Manwan sent some of his representatives who tricked him into showing up for a possible deal, and basically this big money opportunity, and Ramiro's greed got the better of him, and Manwan captured himself a ship without firing a shot, and ended up hiring out Ramiro's crew because his ship was so fast. Now, because his ship is so light, it doesn't have much armament. So he has, he basically does contraband running, anything that's not a combat role, because if he went up against a regular galleon, he'd just get eaten alive. So his job is basically scouting, smuggling, other things like that, where his speed is to his advantage. The thing about him, though, is he learns his lesson early on. He tries to get away from Despan, but kind of struggles at it for a while. Eventually, Craven, this guy here, and yes, he's a teetotaler, and he looks like his personality is just like this guy here, or what you'd expect for a guy like that. Very kind of colonial era type personality. Anyways, Craven helps convince Simon to hire them. And then Ramiru uses that as the means to, because he really doesn't need to hire, or Simon, he doesn't really need Simon to hire him. The reason he has Simon hire him is because he needs the money. The thing with Manwan is he knows that Ramiru can and will escape and flee to safety the first chance he gets. So his way of making sure that doesn't happen is his ship is kept such that there is only 1 to 2 days worth of any supply item on that ship at any given time. That way he can't sail off, because you need water after 3 days, especially if you're on a sailing ship out on the sea and it's hot and stuff, and the closest island is at least 4 days away. Have food. I mean, you could survive without food, but you can't make the whole journey across without having food, because your men are going to start dropping out on you. So, he keeps it so that Ramiru is kept on a very, very short leash. So Simon comes in, and the fare is 7 gold coins, or was it 9? No, it was 9 gold coins. 9 gold coins. I think it was like 4 up front and 5 on delivery, or once they reach the destination. And he's going to, Ramiro's going to use that to restart his business and his life and all of that kind of stuff. Doesn't work out that way, but that was what he's planning. But yeah, the Flying Coachman is a big one in this. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, there's Puffing Dragon. That's the one I was talking about. This one was actually Puffing Dragon was actually modeled after an actual Civil War battleship that was a hybrid sail and steamship. The Puffing Dragon's kind of funny because Manuel, Despond was told, hey, you need to build your ship this way. You need to put such and such on it, and so on and so forth. And as far as, because he took an existing sailing ship and converted it, but when he converted it, rather than doing it the way he should have done it, he was in such a hurry to have the ship done that he created a fatal vulnerability in the ship, which is on a normal sailing ship like this, the engine is amidship and it's below decks. His steam engine was in the back, and it was in a steam hut on the fantail. Okay, it's in an armored wooden hut, but you beat on that hut often enough, though those shells are going to go through that. And steam engines, especially steam boilers under a lot of pressure, do not like cannonballs. They absolutely do not like cannonballs. They will get very grumpy and explode on you. So anyways, like I said, that was a fatal mistake on his part to build that, because Ramiro will use that to his advantage. And the Puffing Dragon is fast. It is really fast. It can do 14 knots under either steam or sail alone, or 22 knots, which is really fast for a ship like this. It can do 22 knots with both steam and sail going at the same time. Ramiro's ship can only do 16 knots, so even though they get like a 4 or 6 hour head start, the Puffing Dragon is able to actually get out there and go after them. They have to go out initially with sail, because it takes about 4 hours to get enough steam to run your steam engine. But it has sail, so it can actually get underway using just the sail, traveling about 12 to 14 knots, depending on the wind. And as soon as the steam is up, you leave your sails up, but as soon as the steam is up, you just throw that bad boy into full steam ahead, and off you go. And it is able to catch the Flying Coachman. And I'm not going to spoil the battle for you. You can guess that Ramiro won. I mean, that much is obvious, because Simon and the others make it to the other side, so obviously he won. How he wins is what is the cool part. Like I say, it's easy to assume that he won and to beat the Puffing Dragon, but how he won is the important part. Let me see if I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, let's go back up here, because I started into cities and ended up over here into characters and ships and stuff. So let's see, Cantina. Oh, that's right, Cantina. That's the other continent. That's kind of like where Neustron is, like Asia and the Middle East and Russia and all that. It's a big continent. Cantina is kind of like North America. So it's the smaller continent. It's on the other side. It's got the second half of the fourth sextant plus the fifth and sixth. So it's still pretty big, but it's a lot smaller than the primary continent. That one, like I said, that's one of two big continents on the planet. Drakmartin is the one I was thinking about, where they were kind of 1600s medieval. The controllers took issue with this and destroyed the city, but this does play a role in book 2. Kind of interesting. Oh, here we go. Fort Castanega. This is a old-fashioned military fort with we're talking big black powder cannons. And there's a battle that actually occurs that involves the fort and the domain of Caspar. The fight is cool. I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything more on it, but the fight is really cool. And it's this fort here that protects Bremen Tabaro. And, I mean, these guys are out there. They got, they don't have just the 6-pounders and 12-pounders. They got 18, 32, 42, and they've even got some 60-pounders. I mean, you talk about a 60-pounder. That's the size of the cannonball they're chucking. I mean, that you talk about a cannonball capable of making ships just go away. That one will do it. uh, let's see. Grayside Manor. Oh yeah, okay. That's one of this is one of the three Christian houses in the Keep of Woes. That's run by Lord Trigg. That's the keep itself. That's the weird. Oh, Mangangro. This is an interesting one because this is one is, in the book it only talks about there being 6 weirs of Offworld. Mangangro was actually the 7th. The summary story behind that is originally, Trond, Morten, and Kestrel didn't exist. It was Mangangro. Well, there was a bit of a rebellion, and the dragons kind of got in trouble with the controllers. So the controllers attacked Mangangro, and they drove away all of the dragons. The funny thing is, they didn't completely destroy the weir. They just attacked the weir in punishment for their rebellion, and they abandoned the weir, and they went out and they established Kestrel, Trond, and Morten, which actually was to their advantage, and oddly enough, it was to the advantage of the controllers. It was during the Great Dragon Rebellion. This isn't actually fully destroyed until the time of Offworld Chronicles, because and what actually initiates that is Zek starts using it for a secret base to have private meetings with some of the other Weirmasters to formulate plans for future actions against the controllers. Controllers catch wind of that and they destroy Mangangro. So, anyways, that ends up ceasing to exist. That's more 10. Eastern Pongo. Oh, yeah. Okay. Pongo's an interesting one. It's a small village. This is the one that they encounter after the one with it was Logan Town. It was the one with the Jewish baker. This one's kind of cool because there's some big character development that happens here. You start learning more about Banisi. This is one I was going to mention. Banisi, I didn't actually write a language for this. There was no need to. I did a couple of demonstrations, but it was just kind of pull stuff out of your butt thing. But the long and short answer to this is Banisi is a hybrid language that was developed on the planet. It was like you had all these different languages that kind of merged together into one. So people were coming in, they spoke English, French, Spanish, German, so on and so forth. And the language developed as a means of communication, not for racers. Because racers, doesn't matter what language you speak, your brain has this this tiny supercomputer in it that allows you to communicate with any other racer, regardless of their language, and do it flawlessly. If you're not a racer, you're up a creek because you don't have that. So Banisi was kind of the answer to being able to communicate with racers to non-racers, non-racers to racers, and non-racers between each other. All up and down the course. So you start finding out about this, and Simon finds out about this when he goes to Pongo. That's kind of the first time he experiences this. And Alex kind of starts teaching him. But then Alex drops out of the team partway through book 2. Long story. Long story. I'll save that for you. But anyways, he drops out partway through book 2. That's where they also pick up Maggie. They pick her up shortly afterwards. So Alex leaves, she comes in, and they after that they don't really learn much. It's not until they get to Kestrel Weir and they winter over there. And the dragons offer to teach them Bonisi. So they spend the the winter there, learning the language, and they get pretty decent at it. They're not like super fluent with it, but they're conversational. So, speaking of wintering, this is something I wanted to cover too. Wintering cabins. I started out with this idea in the beginning, and then I realized later on I didn't actually need them, but they were still a plot element because other people would use them, but Simon's team didn't. Because just the way the story ended up flowing, they weren't needed. But basically, the purpose of the wintering cabins is if there's nowhere else for you to land, controllers were nice enough, or were forced to. I'm not totally sure, but or somebody else might have built them. I'm not sure. I don't remember what my notes had, but basically what it is they're just little log cabins along the trail, and you get to a certain point and it's too cold and winter's coming and you need to winter over. These cabins are set up for you to survive over the winter. They have a resource node nearby, and you have all the firewood you need so you can stay warm. You have the resource nodes, which will give you your 3 squares a day through the food wafers, and I got to show you those too. But you get your 3 squares a day, and you winter over, and then when winter's done, you get back out on the trail and off you go. Yeah, there it is. These things. They're kind of interesting. They come in this little like foil package, and you pull them out of there, and they're a cracker, just like this. They're like a graham cracker. But the interesting thing about them is they're very filling. Despite being what they are, they're very filling, and they taste like whatever you're thinking of. And there's been a bunch of different sci-fis that have done that. Sci-fis have done that. I know there's fantasies that have done that. Harry Potter's done that. Although Harry Potter, I think his was like a candy that did that. The all-flavor candy or something like that. But that's an idea that's been in a lot of different shows, or a lot of different sci-fis, a lot of different fantasies, stuff like that. It's just a food product that is literally in any flavor product. It's just whatever you're thinking of. And it's very nutritional. It's more a survival food. You're better to get other foods, like they'll eat Trovit and some of the other stuff. But, if in a pinch, they work. Like I say, they'll give you your daily supply of calories. They'll give you your 3 squares a day. They're easy to carry. They fit in your backpack. They're light. They're very, very useful. I kind of wish I had them. I mean, like I say, this 1 cracker for the day, or for each meal, and you're full. And it's something that's absolutely delicious because it's whatever you're hungry for. So, which is kind of a weird way to do things. Oh. Let's go back to the foods. Oh, come on, you. Back to the foods. Somewhere in here. Got all my other stuff in here. Okay, I'm trying to remember what one of the foods was. Let's try that. Hey, there we go. There's a good start. Here's one of the local foods for Offworld is they have cows. These are cows that were taken from Earth, genetically modified so they could live on the planet, because humans from Earth cannot live on this planet unless you're genetically modified to specifically live on the planet, even though it's a Class M. The way the planet's atmosphere and stuff operates, a human from Earth can't live on Offworld, just like an Offworlder can't live on Earth. You'll go there, and due to the difference in the environments, you'll die. Slow, painful death, but you'll die. It's kind of like if you've ever watched Avatar. Like the humans that went there, the humans had to have the breathing masks because they couldn't breathe the atmosphere or they'd die. But then if you had the natives, the Navi or whatever they were, if they went into a human living space, they had to have a breathing mask because it was either there was stuff there that they couldn't breathe or they would die, or it was something that the mask provided something that they needed that wasn't in the air that was inside the buildings. So kind of the same idea, relatively speaking. And it's also more true to science because you can have 5 Class M planets, and all 5 of them are going to have entirely different atmospheres, and some might be livable for humans from Earth, and some might not. So, let me see. Yeah, because they have, there's one. I think it's Spunions. There it is, Foods of Offworld. Bingo. Okay, here is a bunch of the foods that are found on Offworld, and again, a lot of these were transplanted because when the controllers were setting this planet up, they were thinking ahead to, okay, some of these people are going to want to grow their own crops. They're going to want to have, they have their own farms and things like that. So there was a bunch of crops that were brought over to Offworld and genetically modified to live on the planet. That goes for like the trees, the grass, anything that was brought from Earth had to be genetically modified to live specifically on Offworld. Here's some of the crops that you run into that they're growing locally, like chiatine, which is basically a type of oats. You have gastons, which are green bean, and you have to realize that some of these names come from the fact that you got people from different language groups and different ethnicities and stuff. And you're going to have them calling these items different names, and you're also going to have the fact that over time those names get kind of adulterated, so you end up with things like chiatine, gastons. Naslet. Now this one's an interesting one. This one is a custom engineered, you could call them a genetically modified item, but what it is it's like wheat, but it's a wheat that's really interesting in the fact that when you grind it up, it has a strawberry flavor to it, and they use it to make certain types of cakes and pastries and stuff like that. It's a really neat grain. It's also very kind of sensitive, and what you do with it is you plant it after all the other crops. Like you put your corn in, which they have a different name for corn, but you put your corn and your wheat and stuff like that in, and the last thing you plant is naslet. And of course naslet's the first thing out. Then you have your oats and your wheat and stuff that come out after it. So naslet has a very short growing season, has a very big head, and it grows fast, and it has, the head is something like a bumping strawberry. So, and like I said, you grind it up and it has kind of that strawberry flavor. Spunions, those are potatoes. Debonate, that's the local coffee variety. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. But basically, it's not grown like normal coffee. It's a cereal grain. They dry it, they roast it, they grind it, and it makes a type of coffee. And funny thing is, in the book, Trevor just absolutely adores it. He thinks it's great. Because, like I say, it's like corn, but then you treat, once it dries, you shell it and dry roast it and grind it, and it becomes a type of coffee. And people there just love it. Qual tetra, that's essentially just engineered rice. Keplet, that's corn. Barnacorn, that's wheat. I know, isn't it funny? Keplet, corn, barnacorn, wheat. But anyways, and that's just a few of them. Now here's another one. You've seen the Trovits. There he is. Here's the stagnant deer. This is the local deer population. And there's actually a funny with this one with Trevor in the book is when they first start out, the only thing that Simon has is a bow. He doesn't have that right away. He picks that up later on from one of the resource nodes as one of his allocations. And they're out hunting for meat for them because they have the wafers, but they're also they've got Trovit, they've got wild vegetables. Simon's doing the whole survival thing, and one of the things he wants to do is he wants to hide for tanning, and he's got a speed tanning method that he learned from one of the chiefs. So he's tanning Trovet hides as they're walking, which is funny because the stuff's like hanging off. These hides that he's tanning are hanging off of his backpack. Trevor's got some hanging off of his. Barash definitely does. I don't remember if Alex did. I think Alex was carrying a lot of like the ammo and stuff like that, so he wouldn't have carried those. But yeah, Simon was carrying like the skins and stuff, which they later use for trading. Some of it they keep for themselves and use for projects, but most of it gets traded for other things that they need. Yeah, there's one scene, and this is hilarious, and I'm not even going to give it true justice, but basically they're sitting out in this field, and these stagnatiers come by, and Simon's hits his buck, and the buck's like, ha ha ha, he takes the hit, runs a little ways, drops down. And Trevor, being the youthful idiot that he is, he's not an idiot, he's a genius, but 18-year-olds don't tend to have the best in common sense. He has to learn that throughout the trip. But when he, at this point in the early part of the trip, he doesn't exactly have the most robust common sense. And he jumps on top of this deer while it's still breathing. And Simon's like, I wouldn't do that. Oh, no, it's like, there's nothing wrong here. I'm safe. The deer runs up and just runs Trevor around this field like a rodeo bull. Trevor's holding on to this thing's horns, and this thing's bucking him and everything. Simon's over there trying to figure out how to hit the deer without hitting Trevor, and Trevor finally just shivs the deer and drops him in his tracks. And Simon comes over, you okay? And Trevor's like, that was awesome. So it kind of gives you an idea what Trevor's like, at least in the earlier part. Let's see, we've done a rabbit trail on this already. Let me back up a little bit. Back to that page. There we go. Let's see, Sandler. Oh, okay, that's next to Subton, or Donville. Four Kingdoms, I mentioned them. Great Sea, Reaping Sea. Oh, real quick thing with the Reaping Sea. It has its name because it has this rather unfortunate habit of spawning sea storms, and they're usually fairly violent sea storms, and it's just like, could be sunny skies, light breeze, 5 minutes later you're sitting in the middle of a severe thunderstorm. It's like, where in the world did that come from? And part of that is due to the, it's not like the nature of the lake. It is because of the controllers, and the controllers are messing with every ship that comes across that water. They're literally firing up these storms to try and sink ships. It's not every ship, and it's not every person that they're trying to kill. It's just, they kind of just randomly pop up storms and try to sink ships with them. And what's funny is after the Fourth Kingdoms are destroyed, the sea gets oddly quiet. Like the controllers are just bored with the thing, or I don't have any specifics on that. I don't even have that in my notes. I don't remember what it was. It's just that it hit a point and it stopped. It just stopped being violent. I mean, it still has its little thunderstorms and sea storms and stuff like that, but nothing like it is when Simon and the others cross. I just spawned a thought and I forgot it. Man, I can't think of it. Anyhow, it was something that was related to this, the thought that I spawned. I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah, here we go. Whitley Inn. This was one of the pubs or taverns in Bremen Tabaro where the pirates are at. Old-fashioned, RPG style inn. There's the Wintering Cabins, Yarwin. Yeah, we already covered that one. Okay, so that's locations. Let's see, anybody I want to detail here? Oh, Adam and Martha. That's who the two were in the Westlands that Simon's team dealt with and were, part of that area. I'm trying to remember what other things that was part of this. Oh, a Shonai. This guy's a trip. A Shonai is this big, beefy meathead dragon. And it's funny because before Maggie meets Garloon, he's over there. He's like 350, 400 years old. I think it's pretty close to 400 years old. Dude is still a bachelor because he is this absolutely boring meathead. Nobody wants to date him. And he's over here trying to date Maggie, try to get her to, to date him or agree to, court and stuff like that. She's like, I don't want anything to do with him. You're the most boring dragon ever. And it's funny because later on, Teriath, her sister, who wants nothing to do with men, and that's mostly because of her mom, which that's a long story, but let's just say her mom is the kind of woman that everybody hates. And it's not because she's a bad parent, it's because she's too much of a parent. And her kids hate her. Schumann's kind of like, yep, well, I screwed up on that one when I married her. But there is a cool redemption story with that whole thing between Maggie and her mom. I was trying to remember what her mom's name was. Probably tell you real quick. I'll go back here. Let's see. Okay, fine, we'll do it this way then. Probably find her faster this way. No. Oh, Caruth. I gotta point this one out real quick. Caruth is Maggie's aunt, and the elder sister is Schumann, and I'll tell you this much, she is the coolest mom. She's got kind of this Jewish New Yorker mom. There's the other one. Yeah, anyways, Caruth has got this Jewish New Yorker mom personality, and she is so cool because Maggie loves her. She taught Maggie how to fly because she's an expert flyer. She learned how to fly from Rathon, who's a master flyer. So Rathon's a master flyer. He's like best on the planet. Caruth is darn close to him, and Maggie learned her flying from Caruth, so she's a really good flyer. She even takes Garloon and really ramps up the quality of his flying. But Ophina is who I'm thinking of. She is the mother of Maggie and wife of Schumann. And yeah, like I say, she is this really obsessive helicopter parent. And first time you meet her, you're just like, I can't believe she said that. This woman has no filter. And part of the reason she's the way she is because of her because of the fact that she has a 1 in 90 success rate on her eggs. And one of the things that Caruth explains is that the 1 in 50 ratio for most dragonesses is just something that every dragoness has to deal with. And some handle it better than others. Caruth found ways to handle it on her side by pouring herself into her kids and everybody else's kids. Not in a bad way. She did it in a good way. She was like being a super mom. And Ophina decided to become super helicopter, OCD with her kids. And yeah, her kids didn't like her for that. So, and then there's a redemption arc in After Offworld, book 2, The Weirs of Offworld, where Maggie helps her mom recover from that and actually turn into a pretty interesting lady after that. But yeah, anyways, yeah, Teriath and Ashona end up actually getting together and becoming life mates. And she there's one quote in there that when when Maggie's talking with her sister about, her sister Teriath about Ashone, she's, Teriath's like, well, why didn't you like him? Well, he's the most boring dragon on Offworld. And Teriath's like, I could go for boring. And it's off to the races from there. Oh yeah, there's also the horses of Offworld. This guy right here is interesting. If I go over here to this one, you can see the horses. There's 7 horses. Caesar's the oldest one. That's Simon's mount. He's also kind of the de facto leader of the herd. Trick and Pedal, they're pretty mute personalities. They're just, they're just like, hey, we're pack horses, whatever. Bellamere is this great big Shire horse, like I showed here. This is a big dude. This ends up being Barash's horse because he's so big, and it's Esther who gifts him to Barash, because this horse originally was her husband's horse, and he rode Bellamere because he was a big dude too. And Bellamere is also a very interesting horse because he's got this very noble personality. And even though he's the biggest horse in the herd, he's very respectful to Caesar. And he kind of acts as Caesar's right-hand horse, if you will. Elliot's funny because he ends up, it's a male horse, and he ends up being Arya's horse, and those two just make the perfect pair. Spirit ends up being Trevor's horse. She's just, she's 6 years old and an absolute bundle of boneless energy. She's a riot. And then you have Tiny. Tiny is a funny one. She spends the first 2 weeks as Barash's mount. And Barash just, they ask him, well, what are you going to call your horse? He says, Tiny. And he just does it with this completely straight face. Just as deadpan as you can get. And really, he's too big for her. And she kind of lets out a complaint and stuff. But what can they do? They only had, they started out with Caesar, Tiny, Elliot, and Spirit. And then a little bit later, they pick up Trick and Pedal. And then once they get into Forlorien and they get to, Venador, excuse me. Once they get into Venador, they pick up Bellamere. And after that, Tiny just ends up being a pack horse along with Trick and Pedal. But Tiny's funny because she has got this attitude, and her and Elliot just get into it all the time. And Bellamere's over there constantly having to play referee between them. But yeah, Tiny's got this real attitude to her. She's funny. She'll get all sassy and everything, and then Bellamere's like, no. And he puts his hoof down, and that's that. But yeah, she's the Karen horse, if you will. Like I say, Trick and Pedal, they're just like, yeah, whatever. They're just real mellow. Spirit's high energy. Elliot's pretty cool. You don't see much of him, but he's really cool. He takes care of Arya really well. But you can definitely tell as they get towards the end of the original series that Caesar's up there. Simon has to guess at his age. I put his age as about 23, but he's probably older than that. He's definitely showing his age. But he ends up being kind of the de facto leader of the team. And Bellamere, even though he has the size and strength to unseat Caesar, he's noble enough and kind enough that he defers to Caesar. Like I say, he's Caesar's right-hand man. He will keep that herd in line as best he can in respect to Caesar, because he loves Caesar. Like I say, he's kind of the last one added to the group, but he loves Caesar. He really, really respects him. You see, and even in the After Offworld books, it's book 3, The Rise of Offworld, where you see the horses fight again, and kind of for the last time. And Bellemere really, Bellemere does his best to help Caesar in any way he can. And, he, like I said, he's that one that Caesar even says, I'm going to defer to you. I'm going to let you take over leadership of the herd. Bellemere's like, not while you're alive. I'm your right hand horse until you die. When you die, then I'll take over the herd. Until then, no, I'm your right hand horse. And Caesar respects that. And like I said, Bellemere's really nice to Caesar. So, let's see. Caesar, Caleb. Oh, Caleb, yes. Caleb is a cool character. He is the angel general in charge of all the angels on Offworld. These guys very regularly go up and butt heads with Sheabal, Bathromel, and a bunch of the other guys. He's cool. He actually helps out Simon's team a few times. Very, very nice guy. Heck of a warrior. Great commander. He's, like I say, you don't see him a lot, but you do see him. And he's cool when he shows up. He usually brings good news, or he's defending Simon's team. Let's see. Oh, Charles Lundy. Here's an interesting one. He's in charge of Section 9, which Section 9 is kind of the good guy counterpart to Section 17. They're not, Section 17 and Section 9 are not connected to each other. Section 9 works against Section 17 and vice versa. Charles Lundy was the one who started it. Jack Lundy is his grandson, who's continuing the organization. They come to the planet not in the same way Simon and the others do. They come in remote controlled avatars, so they can come and go as they need to, and they don't actually have to come to the planet, be genetically modified and stuff to actually live on the planet. But yeah, he plays a big part in there. Let's see, Chester Westman. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to run out of time. I'm getting so caught up in this, having a blast. Anyways, Chester Westman. I got a lot to deal with him, so because he has a very important part in the story, both in the main series and the After Offworld series. So I think what I will do is I will save him for next time, because we're almost at 45 minutes again. I'm trying to keep these at 45 or under. We'll cover this guy next, and he's an interesting character. He is like this really deep southern railroad tycoon, but he's not a good guy. He does a lot of good things, but he's really not a good guy. So, anyways, I'll tell you guys more on that next time. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, etc., please let me know. Thanks.